Yes, love's a secret weapon. Yeah!
Hi, I'm Donna Loren.
And I'm Dr. Adam Gerace.
And you are listening to Love's a Secret Weapon podcast.
Merry Christmas, baby. Merry Christmas, baby. Merry Christmas, baby. You sure to treat me nice. Merry Christmas, baby. You sure to treat me nice. Give me a diamond for Christmas. I'm living in a paradise. And when I'm feeling mighty fine, got good music on my radio. Yes, I'm feeling mighty fine, got good music on my radio. Kiss me, baby, underneath the mistletoe. Oh, go, 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 go. Merry Christmas, baby. You sure to treat me nice. Merry Christmas, baby. Merry Christmas, baby. Merry Christmas, baby. You sure to treat me nice. Merry Christmas, baby. Merry Christmas, baby. Gave me a diamond ring. Now I'm living in a Saint Nick came down the chimney about 2:45. He left all these pretty presents that you see before me. Oh, Merry Christmas, baby. You're sure been good to me. Merry Christmas, baby. You're sure been good to me. Merry Christmas, baby. Merry Christmas, baby. You're sure been good to me. Merry Christmas, baby. Oh, Merry Christmas, baby. Well, I'm all lit up underneath the Christmas tree. Oh, Merry Christmas, baby. You keep entrusting me. Merry Christmas, baby. Merry Christmas, baby. I'm all lit up underneath the Christmas tree. Merry Christmas, baby. Merry Christmas, baby. And Merry Christmas, baby. You sure been good to me. Merry Christmas, baby. Merry Christmas, baby. Merry Christmas, baby. Merry Christmas, baby.
Well, Christmas and the holiday season is upon us. And so Donna and I thought we would speak to you, our listeners, and talk about our plans for the holidays and just really what we've thought about this year and during this holiday seasons. So
Yes, you've been doing a bit of traveling, haven't you?
I have indeed. I got back from Bali yesterday morning. We took a overnight flight. So we've arrived in customs at about 6 a.m. in the morning, which
And what was the event, for such a lovely romantic trip?
Yes, well, I recently got married at the beginning of
Congratulations.
December. Thank you. Yes, we decided to take a quick honeymoon, 10 days to Ubud and Seminyak in Bali, which was absolutely spectacular. Lots of swimming and just walking the streets and being with the beautiful people there. And the wedding was fantastic. So many...
And I hear Lucy, and I saw that Lucy was your maid of honor.
She was there, and she was Lois. She did a really good job. we had a ball. So the wedding was fantastic. I maybe went a little bit big on flowers, so there were lots of beautiful hydrangeas and peonies and roses, and but yeah, it was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful day to spend with friends and family, and we're very happy and just very grateful that we were able to do that. Particularly with, I mean, I know it's a fair way down the COVID situation now, but to be able to have that big event and do that and not to be disrupted, we were very grateful.
Dr. Adam, I think it's so amazing, and I hope our listeners can align with this thinking, is that some of us are really having tough times. Some of us are actually finding ways of escalating our lives in such positive ways. And it's such an interesting time to be alive because there's so many extremes happening, and I had a little bit of travel as well just recently. I start out very practical, which is not my best feature. I'm more of a dreamer than I am a practical person. But before I moved to Arizona, I've had a wonderful dentist that I just couldn't give up visiting for my biannual checkups, and so off to Palm Springs to be with Dr. J, and he knows that we have this love connection, and when you get ready to lay back and say you want somebody to really care. So
Absolutely, it's a very delicate position to be in. You've got to trust.
So when we go to Palm Springs for our dental work now, it's quite a distance, and I try to arrange to see our surrogate family, which 10 of us gathered as a reunion, and it was so lovely seeing everyone. And among them were our friends Todd and David, our film producers and authors that we've spoken with on our podcast. And Todd came up from Mexico, from where he just moved.
Yes.
And we coordinated this visit so that we were there when he's promoting his book, Lunch with Elizabeth. And he did a reading, and he's
lovely.
Just really, really making there again another person that found a way to kind of move in a very upward direction in these very difficult times. So
absolutely, what we've spoken about a lot with Todd and David, but also other guests and our own experiences of sometimes making changes or thinking about where we want to go or what we want to do or what we value, and sometimes being brave to make that leap, because that can be uncomfortable to, even if we know something is maybe not working for us, there is sometimes some comfort in the known, at least, and to jump into that unknown can be scary. But we've certainly seen it with so many people we've spoken to this year and before that, of how wonderful that can be when we do take that leap of faith and have some courage.
Oh, yes, it certainly takes a tremendous amount of courage. And it takes courage to, be in a position of having to face some shadows and darkness in your life as well, because that's, to me, my experience of facing issues that are very unpleasant, that somehow evokes the courage to help you release that energy out into the universe and make space within yourself for more positive energy and allowing the light to come in and fill you with more creativity. So, but that requires stillness. And coincidentally, yesterday was the solstice, and this solstice is bringing about just so many issues to the forefront. And you and I are just expressing our gratitude toward blessings in our lives. And yet it does take the courage and the work to clear whatever issues you have out of the way so you can go forward. And in that light, I would like to share with our listeners. There's a Vietnamese monk whom I've listened to, and he actually passed away this year.
Mm,
His name was Thich Nhat Hanh.
mm,
And I just thought that I might read a little bit about what his philosophy of love is.
please.
And okay, and he says, without true love, there's no happiness, there's no joy. I am here to remind you, I hope everyone is here is in love. If you don't know how to handle love, it will turn into hate and despair. We are here to learn how to feed our love so that our love will continue to grow. Love has no boundaries. True love is a love that continues to grow always. Love is an unlimited emotion. Love is a living thing. The moment it stops to grow, it begins to die. So we have to learn how to feed our love and help it continue to grow and include all of us. First element of true love is to offer happiness. Begin with yourself. Cultivate loving kindness. You cannot impose your idea of happiness on another. Understand him or her. So I think there's a huge challenge facing all of us, that with the idea of this idea is my way, this idea is your way, therefore there's conflict. And that's where we're all at. And so we really do suffer from a lot of separation and division rather than, finding what we all have in common and respecting our differences. So I think we've spoken about that before, but it really is coming to a real apex, to face. And so allowing your heart to have a space for those who you don't understand or you find difficulty with, and show them love in a way that doesn't create conflict. Which it could be the simplest, just a look, when you're walking down the street and you feel a vibe, it's like maybe someone doesn't accept how you look or how you're behaving or whatever, and they give you maybe a little bit of a critical look. You know what I'm talking about. And so you take that, but you don't take it personally, and you just kind of transpose that into a little bit of happiness just coming from your eyes, not a word, not even body language. And it's so to try to make that soul connection and get through your differences. So I thought that would be valuable to share on this time at the end of a year, at the end of our season, wishing everyone major celebration of life. And, you have celebrated life with getting married and forming a union. And I celebrate life every day. And it's like when you wake up in the morning and you smile.
Absolutely. And as that quote you spoke about, when we're talking about true love, that's in all sorts of forms. That doesn't have to be a husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever relationship. It's in all sorts of relationships that we have. And I remember, Viktor Frankl spoke about in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, that idea that we find meaning in what he called doing deeds. So whether that's accomplishing something, achieving something, or being in the service of other people.
Definitely.
Yeah, and as well as finding meaning in emotions and experiences in other people. And that's where we really spoke about the idea of finding meaning through relationships that we have and through love, and the importance of love, and even how love for someone else can be, we can find meaning in that even if they are not physically present. I think that's really important, particularly this time of year as people are celebrating Christmas or another religious tradition or a spiritual tradition or even a secular tradition is that we often think at the end of a year and during celebration about people who are perhaps not with us physically. And he talks about that idea that we can still find meaning in the love we have for those people, even if they are not physically present, whether that's because they've passed or any other reason that there might be that distance. And so, I think that's a really important point to be aware of during this time of celebration, but also where it can be a difficult time of year for people as well.
So what you're saying is that if we've lost someone, or if there are losses in our life, people that are no longer with us in their physical being, that we can still connect with them in a loving way.
Absolutely. I think we've spoken about that, before, that idea that those relationships that we have had are meaningful and important and continue to be so. And what we've learned from those people, or what we've experienced with those people, carries on.
So I don't know, if this relates, but like in a dream state, sometimes, people that have left do reappear in a dream, and I really feel like it's a visit,
You do
on
wonder,
some
don't you?
level.
Yeah, whatever it is, and that probably differs for different people. That some people might see it as a visit, or some people might talk about it as being working through a way to work through our emotions, or to understand our emotions. My friend, my mentor, who passed away last year at 98, she would have actually been 100 this year in December. Which would have been spectacular, but I was so lucky to have her in my life for many, many, many years. And as I said, she lived to be 98, but she studied dreams and the idea that we do use them to understand ourselves, to work through the issues of our days, or ongoing issues we're having, or ongoing experiences. And it's a way to process those experiences and emotions. So sort of this idea that the work that we don't do, and I'm kind of paraphrasing her, the work that we don't get done during the day can be done at nighttime, which is kind of cool. This whole idea we almost see sleep as we go to sleep, and that's it. And it's almost like this is where some real work begins.
So I'm just going to introduce an idea that maybe we haven't really approached, but we are living in 3D, and I've actually been made aware that going into a dream state elevates you more into a 4D experience. So actually, I can't explain it, but I feel it, because it's a way of sort of traveling out of this dense matter into a different realm, and just think about it. If going about our daily business in 3D, but then in our sleep state, that our consciousness is elevated into another realm, for us to either work out situations, or just be in a, I don't know what to call it, if it's a more liberated state or less dense state.
I almost wonder,
Yeah.
whether those boundaries we have, and I think Rosalind Cartwright, my mentor, would have suggested, that there's these more permeable boundaries. I think absolutely that we perhaps have during the day, these more rigid boundaries.
Yes, that have been cultivated by thousands of years of the way that we've lived in the various manners, that in my humble opinion, I hope we evolve out of the conflicts that we've experienced so much, and that we do feel more of a unified way of being, not just with people. I think our planet is crying out for a unification of all nature, that we can relate to. And I would say that if any of our listeners have the instinct to I'll tell you, today, my dear husband, Jared, even though we're living in a desert, we're up in the mountains and we're very, very close to the Mexican border. There's a river only a few minutes drive away from where we live. A river? Who ever heard of a river? It's not just a river. It's called the San Jose. And it just blew my mind because the river flows from south to north. And that's kind of unique. He goes to walk a couple times a week or however often he can get away and commune with nature, and not just putting his feet on the ground, but really connecting with earth and heaven and the infinite. And and sometimes that's where his most creative, innovative thoughts come to him, and his heart opens the widest. And I would say you just came back from a glorious trip to a tropical paradise and swam in the ocean. And, that's really, as you were saying, being in service of nature when you're splashing around in the sea and enjoying it. And sure, it's what's making you happy, but it's that collaboration of being with nature, just like you and I are collaborators. There's an equality and a relationship to everything out there. It's almost like looking at it through child's eyes and just being like, wow, I've seen this for the first time, but I keep seeing it over and over again for the first time. And there's nothing in my way to stop me from loving what I'm seeing, loving where I am, and just being in awe of life. It's like, wow.
Absolutely. The awe, being in awe. I think that's such an important experience, and finding those moments of awe, whether, I think sometimes it can be a bit easier when you go away somewhere different that you haven't been before, because it's all kind of new. It's all like pretty spectacular, but finding those moments of awe when you're looking across a rice terrace, it's hard not to be in awe and realize I've never seen that before. But finding those moments of awe in everyday experiences that we're having.
You better watch out, you better not cry, you better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town, well, Santa Claus is coming to town, Santa Claus is coming to town. When he sees you when you're sleeping, and he knows when you're awake, yeah, he knows if you've been bad or been so big and for his sake. Oh, well, you better watch out, you better not cry, you better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town, yeah. Santa Claus is coming to town, yeah. Santa Claus is coming to town, yeah. Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town, tell me. Santa Claus is coming to town, yeah. Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town.
Actually, I have to go back to my little excursion to Palm Springs because rather than just, heading back home, we had an opportunity to go all the way into Los Angeles and actually be by the ocean in the beginning of Malibu and Topanga Canyon. And on our way, our first stop was in Pasadena. And I visited my son and his dear family. I was greeted by my lovely grandson, who is 9 years old, and we haven't seen each other for many months. And so he said to both Jared and I, 9 years old, he said, "Oh, it's so nice to see you." and then, so funny. Now, I have to reference this, but I'm going to say this in sequence. He lifted his T-shirt and he showed me a drawing he made on his chest of the muscles that he's going to develop, that he drew on his own body. Well, the precursor to that was he and I have a relationship. He loves to draw.
Mm.
And so he made a picture of Elmo from Sesame Street,
Mm-hmm.
but he made him shirtless.
Ah.
and he drew the muscles on his chest and his abs, and for sure that's his inspiration. So my relationship with him is he'll send me a drawing that he makes, and then grandma Donna puts that on a t-shirt so he can wear his art.
Oh, fantastic. That's a great idea. Talk about setting a intention for the new year. New Year's resolution, hey, to get muscled up.
It was just so delightful,
That's
so
wonderful.
delightful, and so inspiring, you
Mm.
know, that's what I want to convey. But then once that visit was ended and on our way to Topanga,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I encountered a relationship of very dear friends where we had some fear that we had to overcome.
Mm. Mm.
And it took a lot of patience, because these, you know, in these times, you know, there's so much caution,
Mm.
and there's so much, as you said, you know, fear of the unknown, that sometimes you can say things that might influence someone. Well, I said something that triggered someone,
Mm.
and
Mm.
it kind of aggravated the situation. But ultimately, I think my friend knew that I was just being honest with him,
Mm.
and that I wasn't, you know, I wasn't necessarily calling him out or anything. I was just trying to point something out so that we could both grow from the experience.
Mm.
And ultimately, ultimately, we spent 3 days together. You know, Jared and I, and they shared their lives with us for 3 days. And ultimately, the glow on his cheeks turned pink. His eyes cleared. There was forgiveness, and you know, forgiveness is like so difficult. You know, to just not to say you're sorry, but to understand a situation and be able to
Mm.
look at yourself in the mirror and say, wait a minute, what's my part in this? What do I have to forgive for myself first?
Mm. Mm.
That's a tough one.
Absolutely, absolutely, and having, I guess, the courage coming up again to do that. Yeah, it sounds like a good resolution.
Yeah, it was all over the map, and then ultimately it ended up in another gathering between this wonderful couple, one being an engineer for my album Love It Away,
Mm.
my engineer Maurice and his darling wife June
Mm.
were able to join the couple that were hosting Jared and I, and also my very dear friend. He's like a big brother, John Steele, who's an aromatherapist, anthropologist, archaeologist, and author.
Mm.
Oh yes, he's a
That's not even
quadruple A.
I was going to say that's not even a triple threat. That's more than that.
And crazily enough, Maurice and our friends who were hosting us did not meet before this evening.
Mm. Mm.
And so they found out. The synchronicity is so crazy.
Mm.
You know, I took a giant leap of faith and invited them, and you know, included everyone together.
Mm.
Well, Maurice and our friends found that they went to the Berklee School of Music together the same time, and they shared all the little haunts that they used to
Yeah.
visit when they were in school. It was like they spent the whole evening reminiscing.
Mm.
So that was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Those moments like that, how tremendous. We found that with the wedding, that often you're putting people together on tables that don't know each other because, you know, for whatever reason, and then by the end of it, they've become friends. Everyone was just so welcoming. I think about being because people are open. They're open to they're coming along to something, and we just found everyone was so open to the experience. And when you're open to the experience, whether it's at a dinner party during the holidays with people that you might be seated next to that you don't know, to take that openness to experience on, and to be in the moment. Who knows what will happen?
Who knows? Well, my dear,
Mm.
may I share? You bring up a very interesting experience that relates to my biological father that
Mm.
I have never met.
Mm.
When I was invited to a wedding, I was sitting next to a relative
Mm.
that I didn't know very well, but he knew of my
Mm.
story.
Mm.
And he was very, very uncomfortable sitting next to me. And of course, we landed next to each other. The first, the prenuptial dinner, we were sitting next to each other. The
Mhm.
next day, we were sitting next to each other at the wedding. And it ended up being that there was a breakfast the following morning.
Oh,
And so
jeez.
we ended up sitting next to each other for that. And ultimately, it was at the tip of my tongue to venture into this very, uncharted territory
Mm.
of putting him on the spot and asking him to tell me some things about my the family that he knew
Mm.
about.
Mm.
Rather than kind of, stepping into that like den of very, very uncomfortableness for him, I could see that it was he literally was shivering sitting next to me the
Wow.
first
Mm.
as we're indulging. We're sitting up in Kennebuck, Maine. And and it was the time of year where the lobsters were in season and the blueberries were in season, and we were all enjoying those delicacies. And he was so nervous sitting next to me, like, what am I going to say? How am I going to behave? And blah, 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 blah. And so I just decided to kind of say a little prayer to myself, like, what will be for our highest good?
Mm. Mm.
And I decided to focus on strength of character and let him know that I live in the present state of mind, and that whatever happened before, I can accept, but I didn't have to go there necessarily. I just had to demonstrate that I'm a happy person. Literally, I had to demonstrate that I was a happy person the first night. The next day, when we're sitting next to each other, he and his wife were a little, kind of befuddled and confused. The universe brought us together for this purpose. And by the third day, they were really relaxed. And they didn't put all the story, from the past onto our experience that we were having now. And and then we could leave we could part feeling like, well, she's okay, he's okay, they're okay, as individuals. And whatever message he wants to take off and and communicate to others, that was his business. And it was so difficult. It was so difficult to make that decision, but it felt so right. And so I just had to honor those feelings. But oh my gosh, you bring that up, and this all percolated. It's like,
Oh my goodness. It's so, difficult situations, and maybe sometimes they're heightened around this time of year for some people. Other times, something you have to practice throughout the year, and we all sometimes fall a bit short, but we keep trying. That's really
well,
what it's about.
It's all about, what I learned in Hawaii and what I've learned throughout my life, is if you give someone the time, and you give yourself the time to be in a space and just tell a little story, or, share something, It's like maybe you have some deep-seated feeling, but that lobster is so delicious. Let's
Yeah.
let's talk about that and open up a conversation. Just open up whatever's blocking any emotions that would cause so much tension and make you feel terrible inside.
Absolutely.
And you have more expertise than I, in a way where you can advise people of how to behave. I'm just coming from practical experience, and life ain't perfect. It's just,
No.
Trial and error, and you keep trying, and
Yep.
hopefully you get somewhere with it.
Absolutely.
Which
That's
which leads me,
Mhm.
Dr. Adam,
Mm.
to a lovely memory of all
Mm.
the people that we spoke with this past year, and a little
Absolutely.
bit before then.
Mm.
And may I just go through my list and tell everyone Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and thank you so much for being a fan guest on Love's a Secret Weapon, our podcast that Dr. Adam and I are really, facilitating, being so far away from each other, but being able to communicate and sharing our love with you.
Absolutely. Please read out there's no one on the naughty list with this one. They're all on the nice list.
So I'm going to start with my dear beloved Jared, who was kind enough to participate, and our friends Todd Hughes and David Ebersole, and my lovely, darling sister friend Janice Whites, Robert Baum, Merry Christmas, Guy Gilchrist, a marvelous artist and such a beautiful human being, Sally Sashi, Stephen White, Down Under, Stephen O. Sellers, what a magnificent voice he has, Andy Nazo, Bobby Rydell, oh my God, I'm so grateful we got to speak with him, and Bill Alexander, and Brad Schreiber, a fabulous author, Jeff Benson, Plastic EP, you introduced me to Plastic, another down under Australian brother, Bobby Shaw Chance, my beach party gal, John Hartman, and Mike Brown, who flew his private plane down to where I live to be with me, and Howard DeWitt, another fabulous author, Peggy McDaniel, Kyle Jasper, Mark Deming, and Joan and Gary Gand, marvelous genius musicians, and my dear, dear friends. So happy holiday to all of you, and thank you so much for being part of our Love's a Secret Weapon family.
Absolutely. Thank you to all of those guests. And we have more guests coming next year. And we hope to hear from anyone who is interested in speaking with us. If it's something about the podcast, something about Donna's career, something about what we've spoken about, or your own experiences that you'd like to share with us, please do contact us. And
Hi, Lucy.
Lucy is telling you to contact us right now.
And with the theme of celebrating, I would also like to invite all of our listeners and whomever you would like to pass this on to is to visit my website, DonnaLoren.com, because I'm celebrating my photographic archive from my entire life with all of you and gifting you with a beautiful song, Merry Christmas Baby, which is part of an EP that I did in Hawaii before I came back to the mainland. And that's called Donna Does Elvis, which was my tribute to living and loving in Hawaii. So please do visit my website and go to my store and look at all of those beautiful photographs that so many memories bring forward.
Absolutely. And quite a treat to get when visitors do buy a photo, to get a little gift as well, which is very cool.
So, Adam, congratulations. congratulations for your new beginnings. And I pray for all of us to find peace within ourselves, whatever it takes. That's what we need to do. And to reiterate Dr. Adam's words of finding courage to face our shadows and to go forward into the light and be in a state of love. A state of being is waking up with a smile and thinking, what will life bring me today and how will I connect? A blessing and a little eye contact is everything to any human being or animal or plant or all life. And I wish all of you so much love for your heart, and let that circulate throughout your entire body, and let all your cells fill themselves with lots and lots of love.
Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding. I think it's almost Christmas time. I feel it in the air. Everyone seems happy, for there's laughter everywhere. I wish it would be Christmas 100 times a year. But then sometimes there'd be no snow for Santa's sleigh and deer. At Christmas time I just can't sleep. With every noise I take a little peek. I want to see if Santa's come to sleigh and reindeer on the run. I'm gonna jump right out of bed with every sound I hear. I want to see old Santa, 'cause he comes just once a year. Now Mommy says if I am bad, my presents will be few. I'd like to know how Santa Claus knows everything I do. They say that Santa's round and plump, with nose and cheeks so red.